What's up, guys? Taylor Mayers here with All Day Training. This is vlog number 4 in our 52 video series. This week I'm going to talk about reasons why athletes, both my clients and other people outside of the gym, ask me why they can't put on lean muscle mass or why they struggle to gain muscle. There are a whole slew of reasons why an individual may not be gaining muscle. What I came up with were the top 10 reasons why most people, both men and women, are not gaining muscle mass. Yes, women you too, because remember, muscle mass is a metabolic driver. You need that to burn body fat too. So no matter who you are, you need to put on lean muscle mass. But for a lot of people struggling, one of these 10 things is going on. I'm going to try and keep this video shorter this week. Bear with me. Number 10, neglecting the core lifts. The core lifts are the 4 lifts: bench press, shoulder press, deadlift, back squat. These are key metabolic drivers. They recruit the most amount of muscle mass. They also are responsible for elevating hormone levels like testosterone and growth hormone. These are very anabolic hormones. They contribute a lot to gaining muscle. Some of the research out is very conflicting over whether that really has a direct correlation with the lean muscle mass growth. But what I can tell you is the biggest and baddest on the planet, the core lifts are a staple in their program. You cannot neglect them. If you're scared of deadlifts, stop being scared and tackle your fears. It's the only way you're going to put on those massive amounts of muscle. Number 9, focusing primarily on strength and performance instead of hypertrophy. I'm probably going to piss off some of my coaching friends who like to tell people all you need to do is train for strength and performance and the muscle mass will come. Well, that's true to an extent. To the newbies, to intermediate lifters, training for primarily strength and performance does help put on muscle mass because it's something entirely different that their body has to adapt to. So for a good while, an athlete or a client will put on some lean muscle mass when they're training for specifically strength and performance. But after a while, that'll stop. And unless they're training specifically for hypertrophy, and there is a difference between training specifically for strength and performance and training for hypertrophy. Unless they start training specifically for hypertrophy, those gains are going to stop. Is there overlap between hypertrophy and strength training specifically? Yes, there's overlap between the two, of course. But you do have to do some things differently when your program is specifically to get bigger, for aesthetics, to look good with your shirt off. So if you're trying to put on that lean muscle mass, the hypertrophy-based program is going to get you the most gains. Number 8, following the same rep range all the time. Man, everybody knows about that buddy that says, man, to get swole, you got to do 1 to 5 reps. You got to go heavy all day, all the time. That's the only way you're going to get swole. And then you've got that other friend at the opposite end of the spectrum that's like, man, high reps and high volume, massive amounts of blood pumping into the muscle. That's how you get the muscle growth. Well, the answer to that question is both guys are right, or gals. And both of them are wrong. Because if you're only doing 1 rep range and you're staying in that rep range all the time, you're only activating a certain percentage of those muscle fibers. And the idea for hypertrophy, or growth of muscle tissue, you got to hit as many muscle fibers as you can. And every human being, depending on their genetic makeup, is made up of type 1, type 2, fast twitch, and then there's a third muscle fiber type. You've got to hit all those muscle fiber types that are responsible for being engaged in using different loads and different rep ranges. So in order to activate as many muscle fibers as you can, to stress out those your muscles and engage and stress out as many muscle fibers as you can, you have to use multiple rep ranges. That means not just 1 to 5, not just 5 to 8, but 8 to 12, or even sometimes 12 to 15. Some of these guys, these huge guys, you see them squat for 12, 15, 18 reps to put on massive amounts of muscle in the legs. Then you'll see Ronnie Coleman, who's one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time, 3 or 4 weeks out from a show, deadlifting 800 pounds off the floor. You got to go heavy and you got to go high rep. You got to have multiple rep ranges and you got to know when to use them, depending on you and the person you are. Experiment with those rep ranges, find out what works well from you, and move in and out of them over time. Number 7, no variance. Everybody gets caught in their habits. Everybody gets stuck in the muck because they have the movements they like and the movements they neglect. And for hypertrophy, you've got to focus on that variance, okay? Not primarily strength. Strength it's good to practice specific movements, and practicing those movements the same way you would learn a new language, repeatedly, over and over again. But hypertrophy is different. You got to use that concept of muscle confusion. Everybody's heard that concept. I don't really like it, but the point that people are making when they're saying confuse the muscles is you got to give it a different stimulus every time. Arnold was famous for talking about this. Arnold Schwarzenegger. When you walk in the gym, if you've been doing the same barbell curls for the last 2 or 3 weeks, Well, maybe today you should walk in and get the Swiss bar and get a hammer grip style, manipulate that rep range a little bit, mix it up, make the body adjust to a new stimulus. The best hypertrophy program, everybody says they got the best hypertrophy program. The best hypertrophy program is the one you're probably not doing right now. That means you need to mix it up. Every 2 or 3 weeks, change your accessory lifts, change either the movement itself or how you perform the movement. Don't change the template. You need to follow a consistent template, but be willing to mix it up every couple of weeks. That variance is key to forcing the muscle to adapt to something new from the environment. Number 6, focusing too much on load instead of feel. You're focusing too much on weight. We've heard this old adage, right? Focusing too much on weight, you're going to perform it wrong. You're going to increase your chances of injury. And most importantly, you're not feeling it. In order for the muscle to grow, it has to engage, right? All those muscle fibers, as many as possible, need to engage in that muscle for it to grow, for it to get shape. So you got to practice feeling the muscle. And if you don't know how to feel that muscle, then I suggest you practice flexing that muscle. If you're not feeling it on the hamstring curl, practice flexing your hamstrings over and over again until you know that when you're lying on your stomach and you're pulling in that leg curl, you know what it feels like to engage those hamstrings. It's the same for any muscle group you do. Learn how to engage that muscle and put your mind into the muscle. I know that sounds cheesy, you've heard it, but it's absolutely true. The central nervous system has got to get on board. That mind-muscle connection's got to get on board to fire as many muscle fibers as possible. Think about feeling it and squeezing, not about always increasing the load. That's not always what it's about. Number 5, going to failure every set. This isn't as big a problem for some. In fact, for most guys, it's not, and gals. Usually they're half-assing it in the gym. But for some, including my Strength Camp boys, some of them like to think that going to failure on every set is the only way to grow. Guys, that's not true. In fact, going to failure on every single set, in most cases, is going to set you up for disaster, okay? And you're setting yourself up for potentially getting injured. There is a right time and place to go to failure. So I'm not saying don't go to failure. What I'm saying is know when the appropriate time to go to technical failure is, okay? There is an appropriate time. Number 4, the one I just said a second ago, is at the opposite end of the spectrum. This next one, half-assing in the gym. This is one of the biggest problems. People walk in the gym, they're getting water after every single set, they're checking themselves out in the mirror. I've been guilty of it. They're wasting time in between sets. They're talking, they're socializing, they're texting on their social media, Facebooking. Yeah, I was at the gym, I'm just checking, touching base. Wasting time. Half-assing it will get you nowhere. Those same people 6 months down the road will wonder why they're not making gains, and they'll make every excuse in the world why they're not. But the reality is they're half-assing in the gym. They're putting the same weight on the bar every single time. They're performing the exact same amount of reps every single time. They're just going through the motions trying to get a little pump so they look good in a nipple shirt. That's all they're doing. So you got to hit the throttle when it's time to hit the throttle. That's how the best in the world manipulate their physiques. Number 3, not sleeping enough. You would think that everyone would know this by now, but I still hear from some of my guys and girls, no, I only need 4 hours of sleep. I'm good. I'm good with 4 hours of sleep. Folks, there is tons of research out there that proves that growth hormone, testosterone, the primary anabolic hormones you need to grow lean muscle mass, are released at night when you're in REM sleep, when you're in a deep sleep state. And the more time you spend in that restful, calm sleep, deep sleep state, the more those hormones are going to run rampant. The more anabolic you become, the more muscle mass you can grow. You grow at home, you grow when you're resting, you grow when you're sleeping. You don't grow in the gym. So, if you think that staying up till 2 in the morning, playing Call of Duty or watching an entire season of Breaking Bad is doing you any favors, it's not. It's staunching your growth. Stop it. Turn out the lights. Read a boring book. I don't care. Go to sleep. Number 2, too much alcohol. We're in a college town, folks. I got to bring it up. Is drinking alcohol bad? No, not necessarily. But know this. The more alcohol you drink, the more it plays a role in how you digest nutrients. Alcohol has been proven to mess with your metabolism. It affects the way you absorb and use nutrients, and that includes protein. Yeah, that's right. And protein synthesis, as we know, is the key to putting on lean muscle mass, which then leads to body fat loss. So drinking too much alcohol, aside from the calorie consumption, right, screws up your metabolism and affects the way your body burns fat for energy. And most importantly, for you hard gainers, it's going to affect your ability to put on lean muscle mass. It also has been known to suppress testosterone, that anabolic hormone. So for multiple reasons, stop going out on Friday and Saturday night and getting smashed and thinking that because you ate good Monday through Friday, it's okay to do that. It's not okay to do that. Number 1, we'll talk about this another day, but nutrition, if it's substandard, forget about all this other stuff. No matter how much you work on it, it'll only go so far, these other 9 things, if your nutrition is substandard. Nutrition is everything. It's not 85% of it. It's worth every bit as much as the training is. You can train as hard as you want in the gym, but if your nutrition sucks, then I promise you, you're not going to put on that muscle mass like you want to. Anyway, that's all I got. If you have any questions for me, find me on Twitter. We'll try and talk more about some of this stuff later on. In the meantime, enjoy your weekend.